Hello and welcome to another podcast of Plus C. On this podcast, we'll be hanging out with Noma, who's the co-owner of NISC Farms, which produces quality broilers for the market. If you guys are not yet familiar with Noma, I would advise you to listen or to watch to our previous podcast because she's been a frequent guest here on Plus C. But on this podcast, we'll be addressing issues that were not addressed in those previous podcasts, such as how did she and her business partner put together the money to buy the farm where they're farming, and also how did they put together the sum of money to start up, to buy the initial stock, to buy the feed, and so on and so forth. We'll be also finding out from her how did she get her market and how is she maintaining the relationship between her and her customers. That is also one of the biggest problems that emerging farmers or small-scale farmers are experiencing, is to find a market and to maintain that market. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, welcome, and I hope you find this podcast insightful, inspirational, as usual.
Yeah, what's been happening? You good?
Nothing much, just work, trying to get this money. I'm fresh, healthy, and wena?
No, Kisha.
Production area.
Ish, wena. Yeah.
The last time Kisare Nerebu, I think it was 2 weeks back. Honori, you're getting rid of 2 houses. Wakecha, you selling.
Yeah, no, they all gone.
They're all gone.
Yeah, they all gone. We in fact have a batch that we're ready for the market in this coming week. And we placed other chickens as well, so we've got like 2 cycles running right now.
Before we get into that, I think we just need to make it clear to everyone, or no more plusing out. What are you busy with? Like, what is the main production? We understand from part 1 that you want to venture into mixed farming,
yes.
And you have fantastic ideas about the piece of land that you just bought, or the piece of property rather, or but to venture into mixed farming. But what is currently in operation, more plusing?
So, and of course, I guess everybody always wants to know, what do I start with, in the beginning, in terms of, I want to go into agriculture. Do I start with, chickens, pigs? We decided we're going to start with broilers because, of course, as you know, farming is a very expensive exercise. And you need something that's going to bring you in or help you balance out your cash flow. That's why we decided we're going to go with broilers. So currently right now we've got 2 cycles of broilers, like I mentioned earlier, running right now. And we literally just started with some goats. We got some goats since the last time we met.
How are they doing?
Also, they're doing well.
Adapting well.
They're adapting well. They picked up some weight. They're looking good. They're looking fresh.
Probably check them out after this podcast.
Yes, please. Can we do that? So, and like I mentioned, our idea behind NISC Farms was not only just to focus
who's
on
our?
one thing.
I think.
Yes, so I have a partner. Yes, I don't.
His name?
His name is Ivan, and I'm not by myself. I can't even just be like, mine. I have a partner, and we came together and we came up with NISC, which in turn turned into NISC Farms, and we've got all these amazing ideas of what we want to do in this space. And like I said, mixed farming is what we are looking at right now, and this is purely based on the fact that we want to learn all the different parts of agriculture. Be it, is it cows, or is it pigs, is it chickens, is it crops as well. We're actually in the process of installing our own irrigation.
I saw something, I think it was on Twitter. You and the guys were busy digging holes.
Yeah, so digging a trench for our mainland. And of course, like I mentioned, farming is very expensive. Again, with irrigation, we've decided we're going to do it ourselves as opposed to getting someone else to do it. And I think I mentioned that, like in the previous podcast, how the internet is like a wealth of knowledge. Like we can all just go and find these things. Where you'd pay someone to do it, you can actually just go on YouTube and someone will show you exactly how to connect this and that and that and that and that. And of course, because the money to pay someone else is not there. Again, like I said, farming is very expensive. So right now we've got broilers. That is what we have. And like I mentioned, we bought some goats as well. And we're currently in the process of, developing our land so that we can plant some crops.
What are you intending on planting?
Spinach and some kale, and we're hoping to do some tomatoes as well, and herbs as well. So we were actually chatting with my partner the other day about how we actually want to to do interplanting, you know, because there's different ways, you know, agriculture, there's just so much to learn. You know, there's different ways in which you can control your weeds by not only just planting spinach, but planting spinach with spring onions, you know. And like I said, all this stuff is always on the internet, and it's stuff that, you know, I just, when I can't sleep, I just read up on it. And I guess with our actual field is that we actually want to plant as many crops as we can. You know, provided that, of course, the crops will, you know, get the right amount of nutrients without overcrowding your actual beds, but being smart about it.
So with the planting as well, is the logic also that something that you can harvest quick, like 100%. A cash crop? Is that also the logic?
So that's the spinach. That's spinach, because as you know, a lot of farmers plant spinach all year round, and you can harvest spinach, and that will help you with your cash flow. So of course, the broilers and, you know, your crops like your spinach and your kale will help you stay afloat when you need some cash flow. Whereas some investments are a bit more long term. Like for example, you can't buy pigs today and sell them tomorrow, or you can't get goats today and sell them tomorrow. Unless if of course you've got a market to do that, you're buying them for a certain price and you're selling them for a certain price. Because I mean, we are all in business because we're passionate and we love the particular space, but also to make money, to make a living. So it has to make business sense. So I guess that's also why we also got into mixed farming, because we want the different revenue income streams. And of course, I'm not discouraging those that want to specialize on one thing, but we are also doing it one step at a time. We're not just starting with everything and everything is just rosy. You know, like I mentioned, we're starting with broilers because we want the cash flow and also to get started. And we've got some goats that are also in the background. Very soon we're going to buy some pigs. I mean, today we went to visit a piggery in the area, and the guy is selling some pigs just to also learn. And I remember mentioning that mentorship is also important. So again, if you're a person that's a newbie like us in this space, you want to familiarize yourself with people that have been in that particular space, or that field that you're exploring within agriculture, and that can actually answer your questions besides the internet, because you can't just rely on the internet.
Can I ask you something, right? Since you mentioned that broilers and for example,
Crops,
spinach.
Yes, spinach, yeah.
Especially those two. I just want to get your perspective or your understanding when it comes to something that you've just mentioned. Because it's so easy to do, not necessarily easy, but because I personally believe it's the first thing that every new farmer wants to venture into.
Chickens.
But don't you think that the market is already crowded because it's so easy? For an example, spinach, like everyone does spinach. Isn't that a fear of yours and your partner, that you might do spinach and find out you can't sell it? Or was there some research behind that? Did you go to Bukasi and find out whether the market is in need for spinach and is in need for your broilers?
I think we spoke about, you know, customers and also wanting to identify your market. A lot of farmers will tell you, find your market first before you plant, right? You know, because you don't want at the end of, you know, 4 months you're harvesting, you know, so many crates of tomatoes, but you've got no one to buy them. You know, again, even with your crops, you need to plan, just like how you plan with every single part of your business. You need to plan, okay, we are about to plant 5,000 seedlings of spinach. By the time we start harvesting the spinach, who are our customers? And that's, you know, especially with the crops like spinach, they're quick. 3 months you're already harvesting, and you're harvesting for like 3 months thereafter. So now you have to start building those relationships. And like I mentioned, I'm very big on trying to serve the informal market. Very, very big, with quality produce, not just produce because they're just the informal market, like I always mentioned. And I think my partner shares the same sentiment. But like, start creating those relationships. And like I said, even with the chickens, you know, us finding the customer. In fact, you know, with the chickens, we actually went at, you know, we're going to produce chicken. How hard could it be to sell? I have to confess. But eventually, as we realize, our chickens are like 14 days old. Okay, almost 20 days old, we need to start finding a customer. Like I said, don't wait until the 11th hour. I'm not saying, I mean, you are selling food. People have to eat. But again, you have to find the customer. You can't just wait until...
Don't just assume that
the customer is going to come to you, because that is the biggest myth. Please, because you're selling food and people need food to eat, to survive, it doesn't mean they'll come to you. You have to go and find them. So we started talking to a few people, even something as simple as going to the hardware store and speaking to the lady at the hardware store and her saying, okay, actually know someone that would buy the chickens. That guy said, okay, the other guy will actually buy your whole batch. And that's really how it happens. So you have to stay open-minded, stay sociable. Speak to your potential customers, and you never know who your
Network,
customers.
Joe.
Network
Put
with
yourself out
people.
there.
Put yourself out there, and you will find your customers very easily. Like I said, you are selling food, but in as much as it is the mindset of I'm selling spinach and everybody eats spinach, but nobody's going to come and say, Duffy, do you have spinach? No. There's spinach at supermarkets. There's spinach around the corner from the, you just have to go and find your customers. And once you're there, meet the demand. Simple. It's just simple. I mean, understanding prices, understanding what the market is charging, making sure that if you want to obviously win someone over as a customer, you have to go in there and find out how much are you actually stocking your spinach for. I can beat that price.
And the
it might
quality
not
is
be,
still the same.
And the quality is still the same. And I mean, because you're starting out, it might not be those profit margins that you want to make, but at least you'll be foot in.
You're running.
And as soon as you run, the more you meet more people, the more you find more customers, the more you can actually start making the true profits that you actually deserve to actually be making in this space. So,
when it comes to broilers, right? I know that we might talk about it and make it sound easy, but Leona Isabatla still requires a lot of money for your
100%,
infrastructure,
100%.
crates,
Yes.
transportation. Like the infrastructure alone can cost someone an arm and a leg. You know what I'm saying? So Lona, how did you guys go about it? How did you guys erect the structure? Did you find the structure already there?
Yes.
Or the current guide that you're supplying? I remember the last time we had a conversation off air, and you mentioned that you guys were fortunate enough to find a buyer
Who buys
bulk. He cleans out the whole house.
Yes,
So you guys didn't have to. You guys don't worry about transportation costs.
No.
You guys, because he comes and fetches it from the farm.
Yeah.
You guys don't worry about Rekama crate because he's already.
And I
fully
know
equipped.
we're looking at how much would it cost if we bought these crates ourselves and we go and we deliver to the same guy, and then we realize
It's not. So then, how would you advise someone then?
Guri, the thing is, finding that person was also sheer, God's grace, but what I think the best advice, and we spoke to a lot of farmers before we even started looking for a farm, and one thing that always was on our minds when we're looking for a farm is existing infrastructure. And not all of us are fortunate enough to find a farm. I mean, I could inherit a piece of land and it's just,
a piece of land.
But then remember, guys, every single thing has an alternative or a substitute. So if you can't afford to erect that structure that has got bricks, you can use corrugated iron. There's so many ways in which people are doing it all over the world. In fact, in Africa as a whole, people are very creative about using the resources that they have around them to actually have a proper chicken run or a coop. So we were fortunate enough to find a farm that had existing chicken coops that needed just renovations and just for us to fix here and there. But that was the goal in mind for us, is that we were looking for a farm with infrastructure.
Already.
Somewhat, a little bit, so that we can just pick up from where the previous owner left off, and then we can just fix here and there, because of course we knew we didn't have the money to build the infrastructure from scratch. But like I said, circumstances are different for all of us, and some people are not fortunate enough to find a farm with infrastructure, but then you can find ways around actually building that infrastructure.
And I also think also finding partners.
Exactly. Finding partners. No man
I
is an
might have
island.
land, but if I partner with you, you have the
100%.
finance to erect structures on the piece of
100%.
land. So
Yeah.
also be open-minded and find partners. The other thing is, how did you guys acquire this nice piece of property? Like, where did the finance? Because a lot of people start, or the struggle is, how do I put together this sum of money to buy a piece of land? Because we know land is expensive. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And farming land is even more expensive.
Yeah.
So how did you guys go about that? Is it Kiloni, or you don't have to go into too much detail and expose your stuff, but just to give people a clue that it's possible. There is alternatives. There is ways. Where there's a will, there's a way. Just
yes,
so, just
I was
briefly.
about to say where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
When we started looking into farming, we had no idea where the money was going to come from. And look, I speak of God all the time because He's been with us every single step of the way.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't know where the finances were going to come from. But remember, if you believe in something, and you might tell someone else that will also see your vision and they'll help you out. So we immediately said we are not going to be seeking any external funding because, of course, I mean, even if I was an external funder, I wouldn't fund an idea. I would fund
a business
that exists. So if you are Daffy, you've got a farm and you're struggling and you need help with this, but you've already started, then I would fund you. But you know, so I think we both wore that hat that, you know, trying to find investors, external investors, is not going to work. Let's try within the circle. And I think this is something that we all have to, you know, some people's families are different. But we looked into our circle and said, listen, guys, we need help.
The ones closest.
And closest, you know, our families came together and we came here. We decided to take private loans within the family, because then we knew that, you know, then there's not going to be a lot of pressure, because agriculture is not a, you know, today and then tomorrow and then, or even
it's a long-term thing.
It's a long-term thing. So you needed people to actually buy into that vision, to say, okay, you know what, they're actually onto something. You know, savings, we also had our own savings. We put our savings together. Like I mentioned, you know, we got retrenched. We put those packages together and somehow we came up with this. It is not like a gigantic piece of land, but we had to start somewhere. So that's why we also look within your budget as a person. Do not, you know, I know we all want 300 hectare farms. You know, we started with a small holding. We're literally on a plot, really. But like, the dream is to grow bigger and bigger and bigger, but we had to start with what we had. And like I mentioned, it was private, like family that came through, and by God's grace,
it came together.
It literally just came together.
I love it, because on the previous podcast, on part 1, you mentioned something about resilience.
Yes.
And I personally believe that being a farmer, like, that is the number one thing that carries you, because even just planting is faith-based.
Yes.
Because you just hoping that, and you're going to do everything necessary to make sure that you see
There could
things
be a
germinate.
hailstorm,
But
and your crop gets wiped
resilience.
out. Resilience.
And where there's a will, there's a way. So let's stop making excuses, everyone. And if you want something, just go out and get it.
100%. From any, I mean, it could be different for all of us. You could go to and seek funding and you'll find it. But don't just sit and be like, no, but I can't get funding. Wait, but have you tried? You know, don't sit and complain and be like, but I don't know where to start. You know, try. Get a couple of no's and someone will say yes.
And mingle with people who have already done it.
100%.
That is awesome, and I love your story once again, Joe. I can see the passion in your eyes. I can see.
But I'm tired. Can you see the fatigue in my eyes?
No. When you talk, when you speak, you just light up, Joe. You light up. I can really tell that this is not an overnight thing. It's something that you've set on. 100%. You have a vision for this thing.
Yeah.
And talking about vision, shed some light on the 5-year or 10-year plan for the business. Where are you guys taking it? What is like the ideal business that you guys want to own and run and manage?
Look, we are all about efficiency. Like I mentioned last time, quality, you know, but efficiency. We would like to run, you know, this space and probably even a bigger space. You know, ideally, you know, and I remember I was saying to my partner, imagine we bought the plot next to this one, the one next to it, and we just kept on growing expanding, but also expanding as this little commercial farm. You know, getting, you know, much more cattle, you know, making sure that we're planting on at least so many hectares of land as opposed to 1 hectare. You know, growing in the little bits that we're starting right now, would like to actually grow those. But also a big thing is also being farmers that are different. Different, and also finding out and capturing as much of the value chain as possible. Reducing costs of farming. We were talking earlier about mixing our own feed. You know, things like that. You know, having our own butchery. We were going to supply our own meat. So that is where we want to start, you know, the process from here, NISC Farms, and end it at NISC Farms. And I think that is where you actually realize the true potential of being or making money in this industry, to be honest, because we were talking something as simple as that. You can make, for example, 60 rand per kg on something, whereas if you're selling it directly to the customer, it's 110 rand per kg. So it's all
I guess
about
the nice thing
diversify.
is, sorry to interrupt you. I guess also the nice thing about owning the value chain is you can place your product the way that you want to place it.
100%.
People can appreciate your product the way that you envision it
100%.
because you sell it to someone. That guy is not going to package it the way that you would have intended.
100%.
He's not going to distribute it the way.
Again, being in charge of your brand.
Yeah, and fully in charge.
Yeah.
And I think that is.
But that's where we're going. Is to go bigger and better and get better at it. Trial and error, try a couple of things and then get better at it. And proceed forward. But that's where we're going. Like I mentioned, we're starting out. We've had challenges. It's not easy. Lots of hard work, but. If you are passionate about the space, should you get into it, damn Skippy.
Partnerships. How's you and your partner? Do you guys clash every now and then, or is everything smooth sailing?
Guys, first of all, there is absolutely no relationship without conflict. Not even you and your sister.
And I guess conflict makes a healthy relationship.
And conflict makes a healthy relationship. If you find yourself everything is smooth sailing, it's not natural. Because remember, we're two different people. Two different people that are trying to, come together and, pull this vision forward and have one vision forward. These are two people. So of course we clash. But again, we go at it until we find that middle ground. Again, be patient with one another. Patience. And how can vele be a solo dolo?
Go do your own thing.
Do your own thing. But no man's an island. Yes, we fight. We get over the fight. Sometimes we get angry at each other. We don't talk.
But anger is directed. The intentions are pure.
The intentions are pure. This is where we were struggling. This is how we go back. This is what happened. Again, you must also go back and reconcile. This is what shouldn't have happened this time, so that you learn and it doesn't keep happening again. Because we are people. We have to grow and strive to be better people as partners. So yeah.
No, I think that is dope. Just before we wrap up.
Yeah.
There is I think it was on your Twitter feed, or you retweeted something. As a female in agriculture, are you having any problems managing your staff in a efficient manner?
Yes.
Like Bautrompa, is there respect between you and your staff members, or just because you're a female, they look down upon you when you ask them to do something? What is the relationship between you and your employees? Or does the fact that you have a partner makes better?
Look, the fact that I have a partner definitely makes it better. Yeah. I think we actually had this conversation like a couple of weeks ago where I asked one of the guys to do something and where he will say it and then it's better. It's like they'll do it immediately. This is common. It is obvious. You're talking to men, you're a female, and they're just like, this guy. But then I realized you have to draw boundaries immediately. From jump, from the beginning, this is something that I should have done these are the boundaries. Yes, Noma is happy, we smile, but don't mess
She's still the boss. She's still our manager.
So I think drawing the line, not in the sand where people could just blow it away. Right from the jump to say, this is what is expected of you. And if you slack from here, this is what is going to happen. Where people know that actions are actually directly linked to consequences. Where if I tell you to do something, even though it's me and it's not my partner, then you will have consequences to face if you decide that you're not going to do that. But also constant conversations with your employees, and speaking to them, making them understand that we are all here to help each other out. No one is here to show and pull rank and be like, my muscle is bigger than the other person. But also at the same time, don't just take advantage of the fact that it's an open door policy and we chat and you think, okay, I could just do whatever I want. So I guess boundaries.
And I guess be consistent as well.
Be consistent with those boundaries too.
I think me and Lesufi was having this conversation about consistency, and especially when it comes to employees. They need to get to get used to you as a person and be consistent. Don't be...
I must know that,
Siyadlala, but we have...
can be bakusha. I know. I'm joking,
Is there anything else that you wanted to add, Joe?
No.
You wanted to share?
Not much, except guys, like get into farming. You know, how do I start? I don't know. You know, start somewhere. Research. Go online. Speak to a few people. Go on Twitter. Literally, if you type farmer on Twitter, there are so many people that have got the handle farmer this, farmer that. Connect with them. Again, like I said, you have to be sociable. Be a person that people you have to go to people. People won't come to you. You know, people want to be like, I want to be a farmer, but what are you doing about it? Get
Are you
up
out
and do
there?
it.
Are you talking
Be
to
out
people? Are
there.
you marketing? Are you networking?
And research. If you can go on a course, go on a course. Get mentors, and you're good to go.
To man.
Thank you.
Noma, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
As always, it's always a pleasure chatting to you, Joe.
And please, can we see more female farmers in the space, guys? We can rock this.
Ladies, let's start working. Thank you very much again, Joe. I think after this, we're going to hit a young tour around your farm and check out everything. Guys, stay tuned for the next podcast. As usual, we hope that you find it very insightful and inspirational. Peace.